Welcome to Read Your Comics. Today I am looking at The Incredible Hulk number 338. Continuing on with the Peter David, Todd McFarlane run of The Incredible Hulk. Still not getting any McFarlane covers at this point. This is another one by Steve Geiger, and Bob McLeod is doing the inks on it. I don't really think this is a great cover, not super eye-catching. If you were like just a young fan discovering this on the shelf, would this make you pick up the Hulk? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, the Hulk had just turned gray. We're still kind of in the early era of that. Does this even look like the Hulk if you didn't know that the Hulk was gray at this point? Would this catch your eye? I feel like so far this is probably one of the weaker covers in this run so far. And that's not really a slight, because Geiger and McLeod have done a couple like pretty good solid covers so far. Unfortunately, I just don't think this is one of them. Something to note in the UPC box here is the Fall of the Mutants is coming, and we're on issue 338, and anyone that knows anything about this series knows what's coming up soon. But I'm going to jump into the inside of this issue. We get the first appearance of a new character here. Her name is Mercy. She is like an alien of some sort. Doesn't go into a lot of detail about where she comes from or why she's here necessarily. In her purview, she is here to help people. This guy's name is Alfred. He is kind of, having thoughts about like he's in debt and stuff and things going on with his life that are hard. And she pops up and says she's here to help him. And she helps him by taking his radio and dropping it into his bathtub. You get this crispy hand there as she just like zips out. So right away we get kind of what Mercy's all about here. Even though this guy is not contemplating suicide in this moment. He is just kind of just bummed out about stuff going on in his life, and she shows up to help him. We're going to jump into really nice McFarlane pages here of the Hulk. If you saw the last video, there was a kind of a transition of style that McFarlane has grown more into himself on this series. Not that I don't think he already had that in him. I think that maybe he was being asked to keep it, toned down a bit up until this point. Tom DeFalco is the new editor-in-chief, switching over from the Jim Shooter era, and maybe we're just getting a little bit more experimental in Marvel in general right here. Or maybe just with this transition of a new editor-in-chief, people aren't watching over shoulders quite as tightly right now. Either way, we still have Jim Sanders III as the inker, but he is doing a better job inking McFarlane now. He started out, he had a really heavy stroke, and now he's doing some more of the fine line work that is more associated with McFarlane. It could be McFarlane's adding more of that into the pencils too, but definitely Sanders is doing a better job in this issue than he has in some of the earlier issues of the run. So, titles, Mercy Killings. We got Peter David, Todd McFarlane, and Sanders again. These little interactions of the Hulk and Banner, kind of when they're asleep and in between changing, are some of the best moments so far in this run. Because the two really interact more than the Hulk and Banner ever really did. Before, like, you get just the Green Hulk occasionally just tormenting Banner, chasing him or wanting to smash him or whatever. But now we're getting the Hulk and Banner actually having to begrudgingly work together and communicate with each other. But while they're having a little disagreement here, the Mercy character shows up and is saying, "I'm here to help you. I'm here to put you out of your misery." And he's like, "Oh, great. The Hulk is dying." And she's like, "No, you're both dying." And man, some great panels here of both the Hulk like withering up and Banner too, the eye and his glasses like, hollows out. And this wakes Banner up. And that lets you know that he is dreaming. And It shocks him awake. Banner and Rick Jones and Clay Quartermain in the previous issues with the X Factor storyline have procured a SHIELD RV, more or less, and they are now on the run from SHIELD and the former Hulkbusters in order to find a gamma bomb stockpile that the government has. Also, they're looking for Betty Banner. So this brings them up heading towards Colorado. They stop to get breakfast at a local diner, and you see Quartermain doing some work on the van. So Bruce and Rick go in to get breakfast, and Clay eventually joins them. And where he sits down, you got this trucker over here being a misogynist to the waitress, and she tells him to like lay off. She doesn't take it, and so he throws a fit and throws his food, and the coffee hits Clay. Clay, of course, gets up, and he's a SHIELD agent, so he doesn't have to take up with this. He has special training. The trucker guy's real huge, and it's not that Clay's scared, but he's like, you know what? We don't need to cause a scene. Whatever, dude. Just go on. So the guy walks off, but then Clay's like, yeah, I'm going to follow. I'll be right back. And Rick is all about it, like saying, oh, Clay's going to go take that guy out. And Bruce is like, oh, we shouldn't revel in such things. And there's a pretty good dynamic there of Bruce going back into that repression of those type of emotions. Clay comes back, not a scratch on him. He's like, oh, I didn't do anything, but everything's going to be all right. And you kind of see a smirk on his face. Get those McFarlane eyebrows. Look at this McFarlane hair, too, with the little swooshy curl on the front. Back outside, Bruce is kind of recapping some stuff that's going on in the previous issues. While he's leaning against the van, all of a sudden the van starts to roll. And look who's in the window. It's the Mercy character. And he grabs on to the bottom. As the car starts going out of control, Rick runs in, jumps in, and tries to hit the brake. And he expects to see Bruce in there, and he's not. They get Bruce out from underneath, and his back is all scratched up, of course. And he's like, what was going on with you, Bruce? We thought that you did that. And he was like, I didn't do any of that. Cut back to a SHIELD installation, and here's our former Hulkbusters trying to track the van. The van has a tracking device on it, and they've spotted it, and now it's headed to New Mexico. Or is it? Oh, they haven't got to Colorado yet. That's right. So they go to the hospital where Betty was. So in the last issue, too, we saw there was a nice panel at the bottom of every page showing a note, and it gets swept up at the end. So Bruce doesn't get the note, but she checked herself out. They decide to go they got to find where Betty went at this point. And all of this, too, Bruce is also he doesn't remember Betty getting injured when he transformed. And Rick and Clay are trying to keep it from him, but eventually they kind of let it out. So now Bruce is in the hospital, and the Mercy character shows back up, and she's just going to start chasing after him again. And as they run, she hits this other innocent guy, and she's like, oh, I've hit someone who didn't want my help. Bummer. And she vanishes. Most important thing on this page is, here's our guy, Trump again, our kind of villainous SHIELD character. I mean, I guess not villainous, but he's definitely in the mold of Henry Gyrich or somebody like that, he works for the government and he's a government stooge, more or less. But the big thing here is this panel right here, where we meet some senator and this mysterious figure in the trench coat shakes hands. You can see his hand is kind of green, and he's like, oh, you have the mark of a true leader. So here's our leader coming back. Meanwhile, back at the RV, they've stopped for gas. Kid's trying to sell some flares, and this is going to come into play later. He's given a hard sell, too, on Rick. And Rick's not buying it. Interesting thing here, it's getting the sunset, so Bruce is sweating like, I'm going to change into the Hulk soon. And one of the ideas they come up with here is that instead of him ripping out instead of him ripping out clothes every time he changes, they're going to keep the ripped clothes and he'll just put those on at sundown so that he can transform into them. They have an interesting conversation about what they're going to do with the Hulk, because this is the first day since they've escaped from Gamma Base about what they're going to do. And when he turns into the Hulk, is the Hulk just going to take off without him? So they kind of devise, well, they point out here too that it's a full moon. It's a full moon tonight. The moonlight will mean he's at his most passive, relatively speaking. So they're kind of re-emphasizing that in every issue. To like, this is a newer thing for the Hulk. They kind of got to keep reminding you, the moon, the sun, they affect the Gray Hulk. Pretty awesome transformation here. Total McFarlane with the big panel here of the Hulk, of Bruce Banner's face to the side and agony. Why didn't he take his glasses off? Even this, like, the vertical panel of the close up on the eye, the little like energy coming out of the eye, yelling, and then you got a 3-step transition into the Hulk. Although they don't show his clothes being ripped right there. Kind of a mistake there, probably lost in the translation of Peter David coming up with the idea of him changing clothes and maybe it not just getting back to the Hulk when it did. So again, I mean, I'm loving the ink lines on this much more. We're really seeing a lot more McFarlane coming out in this now. We've even got like the deeper brow on the side of the Hulk right here. I love this, the way the Hulk fits into this panel. Even though he's big, it's like you've still got Rick and Quartermain right here, and you've got the big Hulk, but he's squatting enough to fit into this horizontal panel right here. So they start telling him about, the Gamma Bomb thing, and the Hulk's kind of like, well, why should I really care? And they kind of convince him by saying, well, you don't want a bunch of other Hulks out there. I mean, look at the trouble you went through to get rid of the Hulk that Rick turned into. So, I mean, you got to help us get rid of these bombs. And he's like, well, why do I need you for? I can do it by myself. And I'm like, yeah, but you only turn into the Hulk at night. And during the day, Banner's left to his own. He was almost killed today, almost run over by the van that we're in. So you need us to help protect Banner. And so while he's mulling this over, the Mercy character shows up. And she attacks the Hulk. And she says she usually likes to use, she kind of explains here how she's an alien and she's taken a human type form to coming to help people that need it, that she feels like needs it. I guess she kind of reads some emotions of somewhat depression, I guess, but not necessarily people that want to end everything. She says she wants to use like kind of earthly things so it looks like an accident or looks like suicide or something, but she's feeling like she's going to have to take a much more direct approach this time. So she starts blasting the Hulk with some energy, and it must be solid enough that it goes through the Hulk, and Rick is trying to pull it out. And through here we just really get some pretty solid, well, it goes back and forth too. So now we're also getting inside the Hulk's head is Banner. Banner's suffering through the same thing. I like this energy blast here too. It's a little bit of Kirby energy around the outline of it. And she's saying the same thing to him and the Hulk about how, like, you're suffering, you're in torment, you don't want this life. And Bruce is saying, like, yeah, but I don't want to die. Like, no, I don't want to die. And the Hulk is saying, get out of my head. My chest feels like it's going to split. And she's almost got Banner kind of like succumbing to it there. Meanwhile, we see where the shield has tracked the tracker that was on the RV, but Clay has stuck it onto the truck of that trucker that was at the diner. So now they've been led astray. They went the opposite way, obviously. and they destroy his truck and all of his cargo and stuff in the process. And great layouts here too. I like these three faces, although this Larroquette guy's like smiling a little bit too much, even though he realizes they've been had, because his temperament for the most part has been real aggressive towards wanting to get Banner and the Hulk and put an end to him. So maybe not the best facial expression, but still drawn well. All of this is pretty solid. Look at these mandroids too. Usually those aren't good. Mandroids tend to be used for nefarious reasons. Back to the Hulk, we still got this like energy spear going through him, piercing through him and Banner. Good position of both of them there. You know, you get the like rough edged panels as well. I think that's a nice way to kind of, because this could be confusing if you were just going from here to here. Well, this one isn't too rough. I like both the poses. You get both sides, and then he's turned. This is a great Hulk head right there. Just this, well, you would kind of. So that's a McFarlane Hulk head to me. That's a great McFarlane Hulk head. Banner, and even here you've got like a great like contrast of the two panels. You got the Hulk in the real world, she's in the real world, she's in his head, and Banner in his head looking the other way. It's pretty solid layouts. So deceiving cover, pretty solid issue inside. The Hulk is able to finally rip out the energy thing, and he throws it back at her, and she turns into her true form, which is more or less this like yellow sludge monster. So then the Hulk just jumps onto her and starts, fighting it, but it's just like Jello. I think that's even what he describes it as. He says it right here. It's like punching Jello. So now she's just kind of like all over him. So he's jumping just to try to get it to like the wind to like throw it off of him. And he lands over at that gas station that they were at earlier. And they're in the RV just trying to get back over there. So the Hulk comes up with this idea. She's trying to like go up in his nose and stuff. And so the Hulk just comes up with the idea of, you know what? I'm going to rip off the gas tanks and cover myself in gasoline and go to those flares that the kid was trying to sell Rick, which he remembers. That's the thing, is like the Hulk and Bruce remember quite a bit about each other's time of day. Covers himself in gasoline, lights the flare. Whoom. I like this shot of the van too, as it screeched like, they were driving towards it and they quickly turned the other way. Of course, this isn't going to hurt the Hulk, and he knows that. That's why I did it. This is an idea of the Hulk being more crafty, more cunning. So, he knew he couldn't just beat it with brute strength here, but he knew what he could do, that he could survive. Great panel here too. When in doubt, black it out. Probably, some of this does look like it kind of like got out of control, got away from him, like in the leg right there. So he may have just blacked some of that out on purpose. Still a great shot though. The shadow works for it either way. It would have been an opportunity to put, some white for the teeth right there if he wanted to, but it burned off the Mercy character. It's kind of worn him out too. And then he decides, like, you know what? I don't need you. Banner here. Banner needs protection, because if he goes, I go. You guys are pretty lame, but you're all Banner's got. He needs you, not me. Understand? I don't need anybody. Move it, Quartermain. This ain't a summer cruise. So, because of Mercy attacking, that was kind of like, for the Hulk, the deciding thing to be like, yeah, I am vulnerable when I'm Banner, and until I can get rid of Banner, I do need somebody looking after him during the day. Kind of an epilogue here. We go back to our trucker, who now has just like a totally destroyed trailer and all of his cargo. And he's whining about that. He's whining about, losing a divorce where he had to pay everything out and just kind of complaining. And all of a sudden he sees this, attractive female figure in the road. He's like, huh, I guess my luck's about to change. He says, face it, Bernie, your luck's finally gonna change. And of course it's Mercy. And we know what she does. And that's pretty much it. No notable names in this letters page. I did kind of glance over it, and it wasn't really anything I particularly wanted to get into with this particular letters page. But anyway, that's it for issue 338 of the Hulk. Again, this is like not the best cover, but I like the story in it. The Mercy character is good for this like one-off issue, and I want to say she does return later on, like sometime around the Joe Fixit era, maybe. If I remember correctly. I'll know when I get there for sure. Before I do head out, though, I do want to say one more thing about Peter David. He's been going through a lot of health struggles lately, and he does have a GoFundMe. If, you guys got some extra money you want to throw his way, I'll put his GoFundMe down in my description. His wife does if you do donate to it, his wife will give regular updates about his status and his health. He's in and out of the hospital. They try to get him in and out of therapy, but unfortunately these creators, they weren't taken care of by these companies. And, Peter David doesn't have like a stable of creator-owned stuff that's still bringing him in money. He probably gets pennies of royalties on this kind of reprint stuff. So, any little bit helps. I'll link it in the description, and, if you can donate to him, please do, because Peter David is a huge part of the comic history, and he deserves better. That's all I got for now. Until next time, read your comics.